welcome to Tea with Me. My name is Dawn Hudgens, and we are going on a journey with trailblazers in our industry. And I am here with John Smith. John, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is John Anthony Smith. I am the founder and chief listening officer of Conversant Group. Conversant Group is actually my third company. I started my first company when I was 16 years old, second when I was 22, and this company when I was 29. I did sell the last company when I was 28 years old, and I often say this is where I'm going to spend out the rest of my days. I plan to die here, so this is my last job and last company. So, um, as far as other interesting tidbits about my background, I started in IT around the age of 13, though I was already writing code around the age of 9. Family is a huge, huge part of my life. I have 3 children, a lovely wife, and wonderful parents who, frankly, set me on this journey. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. I often say that they saved my life because my parents have a wonderful story, and I'll share just a bit about it. In that, my mom got pregnant at a very young age, the age of 15. Believe it or not, we're from a backwoods country place where things like that were still happening frequently. But I think statistically speaking, uh, most people would say that her life and their lives were over, right? That um, most people that happens to, they don't statistically don't have a lot of success in life. And what I'll say is that my mom and my dad made some very wise choices early on. They decided to focus their life on servanthood and development. And frankly, they changed my stars. If they hadn't made wise choices at a very young age, I wouldn't be here. And for that, I'm thankful. And so family is very critical to who I am and who I want to be, who I aspire to be. I aspire to be more like them, to be frank.
Wonderful. All right. So I think first of all, just by listening to your intro about yourself, we could say that you have been quite successful in your career. Um, who along your journey has had a lasting impact on you? And how have these trailblazers or legacy livers affected you, improved you, offered you opportunity, challenged the landscape in which you live and work, challenged you? And what does that mean for you going forward?
Yeah. So firstly, I'd have to say, like I said, my parents, and specifically my father. My father has been a servant leader for the entirety of my life. He's a guy that gets down in the trenches with people. He doesn't care to get dirty, and no matter what state they're in, he's not a judgmental man. Like he just loves no matter what. And so, firstly, I'll say that he has been a major influence in my life. As a matter of fact, coming home from church one Sunday evening, it was dark. At the time, we lived in a trailer. I grew up very poor. Ministers don't make a lot of money. We were crossing over the railroad tracks, and I remember I was talking about being an astronaut, a doctor, an engineer. I'm naming off all these potential professions, and my dad looks back to me from the steering wheel and he says, "What about computers? Have you ever thought about computers?" I was probably 8. I said, no, I've never thought about computers. And it's kind of weird because from that moment forward, my dad, anytime he found someone that knew something about a computer, he would make sure that I knew who they were. He would want me to go to their house. And so he was making an effort to make sure I was educated. As a matter of fact, he had a distant relative, and I do not remember his name, that I would go to his house and he taught me to write code on Unix uh, in the late 80s and early 90s. And then I learned QW Basic from, GW Basic, and also Q Basic from him in those early years. So I was writing code before I was ever taught it in school. And I unfortunately do not remember his name. The secondly, I would have to say is my mom's sister married a man named J.J. Lay. He had just recently, in the early 90s, graduated from MTSU with a computer science degree. In the summer months, he worked at a consultancy. He would take me on his consulting gigs with him. So I got to work on the AS400 with him, see what it meant to be a consultant. And I was very excited about that. He would give me books to read. And so JJ Lay was a very huge influence in my life. Not only did he take me on consulting gigs, he got a job at Thompson Machinery Commerce Corporation. Back then, I don't remember his specific title. It was maybe IT manager, IT director, something like that, IS manager. He was basically what we would today call the chief information officer. He allowed me to work there in the summer. So I worked there multiple summers at Thompson Machinery. I got to work with dial-up internet. I did some of their initial deployments of internet and the deployment of Windows, the early versions of Windows prior to Windows 95, Windows 3, 3.5, and also rolled out a technology that was very young at the time called Citrix. So remote access and security was all very new in those days, but if it wasn't for JJ Lay, I wouldn't have gained all that experience. So at a very young age, I was plugged into technology. And then later in life, there's a gentleman that came into my life at my last company. His name was John Beach. He taught me a lot about management and quality and process. I owe him a great debt of gratitude because frankly, he gave me, he was like my professor for hire. He gave me a lot of knowledge of, about things like Deming, total quality, things concepts that were foreign to me. I didn't learn them in college, so I owe a lot of gratitude to him. And there has been a number of influencers along the way. Those are three that immediately come to mind, of people that have done me a lot of good. I can name one more, and that's a gentleman by the name of Fate Dotson and his wife Dolly Dotson. When I was young, she loved computers. They would put me to work. She was probably my first consulting gig, and then there was a number of teachers and people that entrusted me with working on their computers in the early 90s. That the list is so long I couldn't do that in the span of time we've got. But there's been a lot of people that have really influenced me to get me to where I am.
That's fantastic. John, what do you think are the key attributes one has to pull from deep down inside to be a trailblazer?
I read your question prior to this, and only one kept resounding in my mind, and that's care. Like, I deeply care about everything. I don't know why or how that was put in me, but I love people. I love people. And yeah, I work in IT security and infrastructure, but I do not do it for the computers. I do not do it for the technology. Frankly, computers are boring. People are just wonderful. Like I have seen it for the entirety of my life that my duty, my purpose is to help others find their purpose and to also make sure that once they have found their purposes, that their purposes can be lived out to protect them. And so it's care. The key attribute is care and love. Just simply loving people, loving business, allowing people to find their purpose. I think it's a total waste of a human life for an individual to never truly find their purpose. And whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't matter. I do believe, but I can tell you in the scriptures, in the book of Genesis, God basically gave Adam and Eve the job of tending to the garden. And I always used to think, and a lot of people think, I think that work is a four-letter word, right? It's something we have to do to survive. I don't think that's what the intent was. The intent is that man needs something to do. Man needs a purpose. That's how we find fulfillment. And we find fulfillment and purpose in our work. And that work could be in missions, it could be in charity, it could be in a for-profit business. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, humankind needs a purpose. And I think the way that we get people to find it is through a lot of love and care. And that's mine. And it just so happens that the outlet for it is Conversant Group in the form of security. I see it as one of my primary objectives is to protect our clients. Even if they get mad at me, it doesn't matter. It's my job to tell them the things they may or may not want to hear in ways they may or may not want to hear them. But if it invokes action from them and it ultimately protects them and preserves the purpose of their people, then I have done my job.
I remember the first time I was on LinkedIn and you had a post up and I read your title. I mean, I know what you do. And I thought, because you chose it. You chose the title of Chief Listening Officer. And I thought, if that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not a perfect person, but I do value human life. I do value people's opinions, and I think that listening is an underappreciated skill. There's a lot of hearing going on in our world, but there's very little listening. If there was listening happening, we would not see the violence in the streets. We would not see the raids on the Capitol building, all this polarization that's occurring in our world today. If people were listening to one another and caring about one another, true brotherly and neighborly love, like we once had in this country, a lot of things would be different. And that's why I chose the title, because I think it speaks volumes about love and care.
yeah, I can see that. The question that I had next is, and you've already really expounded upon this greatly, but I'm going to give the option if you want to add anything to it. But the question is, what is your thought on support with your colleagues as it relates to mentoring? And do you have a philosophy, a personal quote or mantra that you live by?
Yeah, I thought about your question. I couldn't really come up with a mantra per se. I will say that if you ever visit our office here, you will see that we do have a mantra written on all of our doors and windows. It's experience knowledge. You usually hear those words used separately and they mean different things, but I think to truly experience knowledge means that it's growing constantly. So the point about mentoring, I can assure you that if you ask any one of our staff and teammates here, is that we would push your knowledge to the limits. We do push their knowledge to the limits. They are constantly growing. Whether it's by choice or by simple requirement, it's probably the latter most frequently. We do it. And that's one of the things I pride most about this team is we don't do easy work. We do very hard work. And a matter of fact, I would argue that anyone can do the easy stuff. The hard work is far more challenging. It's far more fun. It's far more rewarding. And that's what we're in the business of doing. We don't want to do the things that anyone could do. We want to wrangle the moon for people. And, most probably don't know, but we do, because we don't heavily market, but we do incident recovery. And I love those cases because it's someone has rushed into our ER, they're bleeding at the neck and they need to be saved. And those are fun for us. I cannot, the list is so long of companies that we have literally pulled from the grips of hell. And it's this team that will literally stay up for nights, days, weeks on end to save people's jobs and ultimately the entire company from total devastation. And I love these people. I am so thankful for them. And as far as how do we mentor them? Well, we just put them to work. We throw them right in the fire. And you could argue that's a horrible way to train, but the reality is if you hire highly skilled, highly capable people with the will to learn, they can do just about anything. They can often do things they never thought they could. It was funny. I was joking with one of our network engineers recently, and he had only done Cisco Catalyst technologies before he came here, and we have a lot of Nexus implementations. He's like, John, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Or I forgot his exact words. He knows he could, but it's going to take a lot of time, right? He did it. He did it in no time. It was no problem at all. We put him in the fire. He had the will, skill, and capability to learn. He experienced knowledge. That is what it means to experience knowledge. to get in there and just make it great.
So you've been involved with ILTA for a little while. From a trailblazing, living a legacy perspective, what have you gained from your involvement, and what have you learned and implemented, whether it be in your organization or in your life?
I can tell you the one word that keeps coming to mind for me in regards to ILTA is community, um, and love. I have met so many great people through ILTA, um, that has allowed us to not only expand our company, grow the company and grow our business, but it's also allowed us to grow our love and care. I mean, we just, oh my gosh, there's so many droves of people that we have become connected to, such as yourself, because of ILTA. There's so many names. I mean, there are people like Sam Shipley. I met Sam Shipley from Bricker and Eckler first time in Nashville at ILTA. He was at the time the CIO of a firm in Oklahoma City. What a wonderful human being. He's one of my best friends now. There are so many people. I have always been the thing I didn't tell you about my past. I've been in law since roughly 1998. I worked for a consultancy in 98 that focused on law. And so I've been working in law for a long time, but it wasn't until I got connected to ILTA in roughly 2009, 2010, that I really saw the potential for the greater legal community, that it really allowed me to scale the company through using that network. And so I think ILTA's biggest advantage is the simple connectedness of the community. I mean, it's just a close knit friendship, body of friends.
Agree. If you could leave just one phrase behind that encapsulates leadership and legacy and knowledge, what would it be?
Hmm. I would say it's simply be kind, care about each other. No matter our differences, we are all still one people. And we can continue to do great things the more we extend our love and our reach to one another. To use the term from Christ, Christ said that all the commandments in the law hinge on two: to love the Lord thy God with all the heart, soul, and mind, and to love thy neighbor as thyself. That means you reach toward me, I reach toward you. And in doing so, it doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. What it means is that we care enough about one another that if you have a need and I can feel it, I'm going to come running. And that is the essence of who I am, it's the essence of who we are, and it's the essence of the legacy that I wish to leave on this planet, is one of love, care, and purpose.
John Smith, thank you very much for coming on Tea with me. John Smith with Conversant, thanks again.
Thank you.
Here.
Love you.